Hi everyone, welcome back to Digital Dreambox. Today we're continuing on with our gas pump modeling tutorial, and we're going to make the hose along with a couple other small pieces and wrap up this initial modeling phase. So yeah, let's jump right in and get started. Alright, so before we model the rest of the gas pump, I want to make a couple changes to this fuel nozzle. I'm going to select this front piece. I want to make it a bit wider. I think that looks a bit better. And then I'm going to make the inner piece a bit wider as well, just to fill out that groove in the middle. There we go. And then what I want to do is go into face mode, holding down that right mouse button. I'm going to select this top face, hold down shift, double click this one, and I want to move this and make this a bit thicker. And I think that looks a lot better. There we go. All right, let's go into object mode. Let's open up our outliner as well as our channel box. So we have our gas pump nozzle group. I'm just going to expand this and I'm going to delete this curve. So as long as you have all the history deleted, we can delete this curve. There we go. And then what I want to do is put this on its own layer. I'm going to select the group, go over here, select this last icon, double click the layer, and I'm just going to call this fuel nozzle. I know it's different from our outliner, but I'm just going to call it this for now. Click save, and then what we want to do is unhide our gas pump cabinet. So click on this icon. There we go. And now we want to move the fuel nozzle into position and size it up to match the cabinet, or to basically fit in there nicely. So what we want to do is select the group and not the individual pieces, right? So these are the individual pieces. Select the group, and I'm going to grab this plane first, move it roughly into position, and then what I want to do is scale this down. And I think something like this looks pretty good, maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe that. Okay. And then what I want to do is move this in front of this face. Let's go into the side view, tapping the space bar, we'll go over here. I'm going to turn on wireframe on shaded. And then what we want to do is roughly move this into position. There we go. I'll make it a bit more precise later, right? But for now, over there is just fine. And then let's select our gas pump cabinet. I want to extrude this face here. So go into face mode, select this face, hold down shift, right mouse button, and extrude face. And we want to give this a bit of an offset. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And maybe we could even reduce that height a bit if we want, right? Maybe just a little. So something like that. All right, let's turn on X-ray. And what I want to do is just move this face down roughly to about this line. Essentially this line right here, so that those two edges meet. That allows the front handle to slide in. Okay, and then we want to make sure there's enough space at the top for the gas pump as well. And that's perfect. And enough space sideways. What I want to do actually is increase the space sideways just a little bit. Make it easy to insert this gas fuel nozzle. Okay, let's go back into the perspective view. And now what I want to do is first, let's go into object mode, select our gas pump, go into face mode, select that face, and go into your move tool. And I want to extrude this in a little bit. So I'm holding down shift and extruding that in. Just there is good for now. Let's select our fuel nozzle and move this into position and see that that front piece can come in. So what I want to do is maybe just lift it up a little bit. There we go. And then what I want to do is pull it out just about here where these two vertices, or sorry, that vertex meets with that edge. All right. That's pretty good right there. And now we want to build a piece that helps lock this fuel nozzle in place. Okay, so what we can do is add a cube into the scene. And I'm just going to move the cube over here, bring it up to here, and we want to scale this down. So let's scale it down a bit. We'll go into that side view again. And here, I just want to scale this down to about here, move it over here, and get it roughly centered. We'll have to recenter that fuel nozzle a bit more as well, but right now I just want to move this roughly over here. I think that's pretty centered. I'm going to scale it down a little bit more and then move it up a little bit. And right there is probably fine. And now let's grab our fuel nozzle and do a better job centering that as well. So let's take a look. I'm gonna use these side lines as a reference. And what I'm going to do is just try and match those two edges. Maybe a hair there. I think that's close enough right there. And let's go back into this view. And now let's move the cube into place. First thing I want to do is delete this face on the cube. So go into face mode, select this, press delete, go back into object mode, press W to go into your move tool. And I want to move this pivot to the end. I'm going to hold down D, then V, drag this to the end. And then now if we scale this, it only scales in one direction. Sweet. Okay, so let's move this into place. I want it to just come in there just a little bit. There we go. And now we can scale this in. And I think that looks pretty good for there, maybe a bit thicker. There we go. And if we want, we can even move it a little bit up, right? But this is a piece that was probably like manually placed into there, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then what I want to do is hold down Shift, right mouse button, choose multicut, and I want to put a loop right about here. Let's go into face mode, press Q to go to your select tool, go into face mode. What I'm going to do is select this face, hold down, first go to your move tool, hold down Shift, and do a smart extrude out. And what I want to do here is extrude out, but not past this edge. I want to leave a bit of space there because I want to use this edge to extrude up as a piece. Okay, but however, let's go into object mode again, select this, and let's grab that multi-cut tool. So Shift, right mouse button, multi-cut, and I want to put a cut right about here. Actually, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to move it just about right here. There we go. And now we want a couple cuts in the middle as well. Let's press Q to go to your select tool. What I want to do is hold down Shift, right mouse button. Actually, let's select our object first. So go into object mode, select the object, hold down Shift, right mouse button, and we're going to use that insert edge loop tool, but let's open up that option box. And over here, what we want to do is change it to multiple edge loops and choose 2 as an option. And then click here, and there we go. And then we can press R to scale this in. And if we want to see this a bit easier, we could always turn this gas pump into a, let's see, template, right? That allows us to get in here a little more, and we could scale this in without that distraction. All right, I think that looks pretty good like that. Now let's go into face mode. We can select this face, press W to go into the move tool, and hold down Shift, and then extrude this up. And I think right about here looks pretty good, maybe a bit higher. And now what I want to do is I want to create a bit of an angle here, right? Just from here to here. So I'll need an edge loop here, and I'm actually going to put a couple edge loops. So hold down Shift, right mouse button, choose multi-cut, and I'm going to put a cut right here, and maybe one right about here. And then what we can do is press Q to go back to your select tool. Let's go to vertex mode. I'm going to grab these, just bring this way. There you go. Because I'm trying to create a little bit of a hook form, right? And now what I want to do over here is add another edge loop before I move these vertices. Because if I do that now, this comes to a point, and we could bevel that. Doesn't really matter, but I might as well just add those edge loops in now. So I'm going to put one right here, and maybe one right here as well. Now let's go back into vertex mode. I'm going to grab these vertices, move them into here. I might move all of these over a little bit as well. And then I can move these ones maybe to here, and this one over a bit as well. So it looks a little bit like that. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Let's go back into object mode. And what we want to do is turn our gas pump into a regular layer again. There we go. And now let's work on this section. So right now, you can tell that the front handle guard kind of curves forward a bit. That's by design, but I want to make the inside piece come in a bit as well. So what we'll do is we'll select our, first we want to make it a regular layer, and then we want to select it. We'll go into face mode, but before we do that, I want to put an edge loop right here. So hold down Shift, right mouse button, and choose multi-cut. And I'm gonna put a cut right about here. And then what I wanna do is go into edge mode, select this edge at the bottom. Let's turn on X-ray, it might be easier to work, right? And I'm going to move this over here, but not too far that it hits the gas pump handle, right? Just something like that. So it feels kind of nice when you put that handle in, right? And then what we want to do is let's go into face mode, grab this face, and then we'll push this in as well, because when a customer puts in the handle, they might lean that forward a bit first, right? So we just want to give them a bit of room. And I think that looks pretty good like that. Okay, let's turn off X-ray. And now what we want to do is extrude this face and make it, put a circle there. Not a circle, but a hole. Hold down Shift, right mouse button, extrude face. We need to give it an offset first. And now let's circularize that. Hold down Shift, right mouse button, and circularize components. We'll play with the offset a little bit, and then we'll give it some more divisions. So I'm gonna make it 3. And then what we wanna do is just move this up roughly to here. We don't wanna make that hole too big, so I'm just gonna play with the offset a bit more. I think that looks pretty good. And now let's extrude that. Hold down Shift, right mouse button, and extrude. And we wanna just push that in. So to make it a little bit easier, see, you can do this. I don't know if that made it easier or harder, but there we go. And then let's just turn that off. There we go. And I think that looks pretty good like that. Perfect. And now we have a piece here that the gas pump can lock on, and through the science of physics, it basically will lock into place. Okay, science of physics. Sorry about that. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll add a hose. So we have this hose connector. Let's move this into place first. So somewhere about there is good. I'm gonna make it a bit larger as well. So maybe that's good. And I'm gonna bring it out a little bit. There we go. The birds are on my balcony again and they're chirping away, so we're modeling in nature. Okay, so this is in place. Now let's create our hose. What I wanna do though is snap the hose onto a piece of mesh, right? But the cabinet sits here, the where it connects is here. So I'll show you a little trick. Let's add a plane into the scene. There we go. I'm gonna move it out to here. And what I'm going to do is press T on the keyboard and drop the subdivisions down to 1. There we go. And now let's scale this. So I'm gonna scale it up a little bit, maybe scale it out this way, and maybe out this way a little bit. There we go, that should be enough space. And then what I'm going to do is go into edge mode, select this edge, hold down Shift, and extrude this up. And I want it just about that height is fine. You just, actually a little bit higher. Till it is at least this height, the bottom of this fuel nozzle. And let's go into object mode, and we want to move this till it's halfway, at the halfway point of the bottom of that fuel nozzle. So something like that works. And now what we want to do is combine this with the cabinet. So let's select this object, hold down Shift, select the cabinet, and combine them. And then we're going to make this a live object. And by making it a live object, we'll be able to snap our curve onto it. So go up to this magnet icon, click on that, and the wireframe would turn green, so you know it's live. And now what we can do is go to your curve tool. So create curve tool, CV curve tool. And what we can do now is just click on here, and making the hose seems like it would be a difficult part of this tutorial, but it's actually one of the easiest. And what we can do down here now is just click on the surface and it'll snap to it, right? And just like that, we'll have our hose or a curve. Okay, when you're done, press enter. And you can always move those around if you don't like the way that it curves, but I like it. Maybe I'll do this though. I'll go into control vertex, maybe grab a few of these points and just shift them this way a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we need to extrude out something along that curve. And what we can do is first, let's get rid of this plane. So let's first make it not a live object anymore. Select it, and now we need to separate it. And now we can delete the plane. And what we can do also is open up the channel box, and over here, when we combined it, it put it on its own group. We can add it back to the gas pump group by selecting it, holding down the right mouse button. First, we probably want to select the group. Holding down the right mouse button and choose Add Selected Objects. There we go. And then what we can do now is this bottom piece here, sorry, not that one, this one, we can duplicate those faces. Before we do that though, let's select our curve. And over here is our move tool, the pivot. We want to move it to the start of that curve. So let's hold down D, then V, and move this to the start of that curve. So hopefully I got that. I did, good. And now we can hold down V and snap this to here. Perfect. Now let's select this piece again. Go into face mode. Hold down Tab to do your drag select. And now what we want to do is duplicate that face. Hold down Shift, right mouse button, duplicate face. And then we have that face over here. So I'm going to go over here, select it, right? Make sure that it's selected by going into object mode. And then what we can do is scale that in. If I press my transform tools, you can see the pivot's a little bit off. Let's center that. And now let's scale that in a little bit. I think that looks pretty good, maybe a bit smaller. There we go. And now what I want to do is go into face mode. The faces are already selected, that's perfect. Hold down Shift, select your curve. And now all we need to do is extrude this. So hold down Shift, right mouse button, and extrude. Perfect. And what we can do now is just increase these divisions. It'll stop at 25 for me, right? What we can do though is manually put in a higher number. I'm gonna choose 50. 50 gives it a nice round look without overdoing it. And now what we want to do is just adjust some of these curve points. So let's go into our side view or front view, right? And what we want to do is select the curve and enable X-ray so you can see through it. We'll go select these control vertices and make sure that this is sitting on that ground plane, because depending on the size of the cylinder that we extruded, right, this might be sitting below or above that ground plane, right? So I just want to move it roughly into place. And then over here, I might want to move some of these to better sit on here as well, right? Here it's kind of hard to see, but we can go into our perspective view, right? And turn on X-ray here, grab some of these points, right? And then just move them. Let's just see if they look all right first, right? So this one we can move out probably a little bit. And this one doesn't look too bad. I'll just leave that. Okay. And then now what we can do is connect this to here. So let's turn on X-ray again. We'll grab these points. So make sure you have control vertex selected. We'll grab these. And by the way, you can move your hose now if you want as well, right? So I'm just gonna undo that though. And what I wanna do is snap this to the top of that curve. I'm gonna hold down D then V, move this up to here. And then what I wanna do is snap that to that middle vertex. Oh, I don't think I moved it to the right part. I'm gonna hold down D and V, snap it to there, perfect. And now what I can do is hold down V and snap it to here. And I think, it's hard to tell from here, but I think we got it. Okay, and now what I can do is even move it up a little bit as well. So it's sitting inside. Here we go. And let's take a look at what we have so far. We'll turn off X-ray and we'll turn off wireframe unshaded. And now we have a gas pump with a hose, which is, you know, a good thing. What we can do now though is, if we're happy, what we can do is delete the history, because we can't delete that curve yet. So let's select everything. We'll delete the history. Now we can delete this curve. And we can select everything, press Ctrl G to put it on a new group. And what we can do is even freeze the transformations of all these. So let's delete the history, freeze transformations, and we can get rid of all this extra history that's up here. And we just have this group, which I'll just name as our gas pump group. Here we go. And finally, what we can do is we can select some of these objects, right? So right now, if we select it, you can see that the edges are a little bit hard, right? It's not really necessary right now, but I'm just going to select this one, maybe select this one, and go up to Mesh Display, Soften Edge. And we get a better look of it. And it looks pretty good, right? We have our hose, we have our fuel nozzle, we have connectors, and I'm gonna turn back on wireframe unshaded. Just gonna close some of these panels, and in the next part, we'll be UV unwrapping this, right? So for now, go up to File, Increment and Save, and there we go. And this part is done, and we'll see you in the next part. See you guys then.